Why is there never anything about Hispanic people during slave time? I'm not like white enough, but I'm not quite black enough either. So like, where did I land on the spectrum?
Hello, dear. Let's get into your history as a Hispanic person, since you wanted to know why Hispanics weren't included in history. The reason why you never saw signs that said Hispanics here, drink at this fountain, go to this bathroom, is because the word was not made up yet. It wasn't until later that Hispanics came into existence. But first, you need to realize that that's a prisoner of war term. These terms were used to categorize prisoners of war. Many of us don't realize that we are prisoners of war, and the titles that those who have us as prisoners of war gave us, we wear proudly like a badge, but it's basically for discriminatory practices and to segregate us, because it's just another derogatory term to say that you have so-called black blood in you. And it's all of these terms right here. All of these people are prisoners of war. And this is how they labeled us. So if you find yourself under any of these categories, you are a prisoner of war. And this is your prisoner of war title given to you by the colonizers, the enslavers, and those who have held us as prisoners of war. Let's first delve into the term Latino and where it came from. It came from the word Latino Americo, and so they called it Latino for short. There was a widespread usage of the term Hispanic that began around the 1970s because they wanted to be counted in as their own people. Let me explain. They were at one time counted as being white, or wherever the census was taken. And so in order to have their own separate identity, this is where the term Hispanic came in. It was courtesy of the Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund, and MALDEF for short. Let's go deeper into your history, though. Let's take a look at the original people that were in South America and also in the Caribbean, in the different places where the Hispanics are today. Since Mexico is below the U.S., let's start there with Mexico, the Arawaks, and the Caribs, which are right below the United States. And as you can clearly see, the people who call themselves West Indian, the Arawaks were in the north and the Caribs were in the south. Take a look at the description of the Caribs. It says that they were tawny and they were dark brown in complexion. And the Arawaks, they were reddish brown. So they were all dark-skinned people, as you can see. And it also says the Mexican Indians. Now, notice they're all considered to be Indians, okay? It doesn't say Africans. It says Indians. And it says that they were a swarthy color and they were copper colored. So they were dark-skinned. The Mexicans were dark-skinned people. My skin complexion is copper colored. So they were about my skin complexion. And of course, this is prior to them being mixed with the European blood. Let's take a look at the description of the people from Peru, Brazil, Guyana, and Colombia. And again, you'll see here, the Peruvians were Indians, okay? So everyone in North and South America and the Caribbean, they were considered to be Indians. And they were copper colored as well. Just like those of us on the mainland in America, we're described as the American Indians and we're copper colored. So basically, pretty much everybody, mostly everyone in the Americas were copper colored people. And there were some variations. Some were reddish colored and some were darker, had darker hues. As you can see here, it says they were also darker copper colored. So imagine a penny that is old, not a brand new shiny penny, which would be more copper colored. And so just think of one it's old and it's been circulated for a while. So between those two complexions, this is the skin complexion of the people. If you come down to the last paragraph, it talks about the people from Brazil. And then it also talks about the Mongols. So we know that those who are called Native Americans, the Mongolians, they were actually the first ones to come to the Americas with the copper colored. The brown, dark-skinned people were already here first, though. So some were mixed with the Mongols, which is why some Hispanics have a more Asian look to them. But it still says that they were brown in skin complexion and reddish brown if you read further in the second paragraph. So let's take a look at the Patagonians. And I don't know how to pronounce this, but right here, the P word and the A word. But it also says that these people who were also in the Caribbean, they were a reddish brown and darker than copper color. So these were very dark-skinned people. And it says that some were reddish brown, also copper color. We have all heard of how a lot of Mexicans want to reclaim part of the Americas, but they must first understand that, yes, they did come from their ancestors, but their ancestors look like me. And I know a lot of Hispanics don't want to admit that. So what can I say? But clearly, as it states here, the Aboriginals of the Upper California area, which is above Mexico, here's the description of what those people look like. It says, though there were different variations of the different tribes that were there, they all pretty much looked the same, like copper colored and darker skin. Okay. And then they said there were American Negroes that were actually dumped there, which is not the exact same people as the American Indians. Those are two completely different people. And the people around Colombia, they also match the same complexion and physical appearance of those who were in North America, the North American tribes, which are the copper colored people and brown skinned people. You asked, where do the mulattoes fit in? Again, the mulattoes came about because of the interracial rape. And all of this information is coming from this book. Hispanics came about because of the intentional crossbreeding with the slaves in order for various skin complexions to be created. Why were all these different skin complexions necessary to create? It's to keep the slaves in submission, because they further used it to pit them against each other according to their skin complexion and other differences as well. But we're focusing on skin complexion right now of the mulattoes. So in this Willie Lynch letter, it's clearly stating to pit the dark skin against the light and the light against the dark, which is why a lot of people are so brainwashed today and hate people according to the color of their skin, not really realizing that all of you are hated. But this was a tool to keep them in subjection and to keep them dependent upon the slave master and respecting the slave master, but disrespecting one another, which unfortunately still plays out today. So now we get into the preferential treatment of the mulattoes, which mestizo, same thing. It means mixed. The mixed people, the mulattoes, they receive preferential treatment. Many of them were called house N-words. So while the dark-skinned people were out in the field, the mulattoes and the fair-skinned ones were inside. Not only that, some of them were allowed to buy themselves out of slavery, and if their fathers claimed them, they were granted freedom. And by the late 18th century, many of the mulattoes that were free and other mixed-race people, they began petitioning for legal rights. I showed you all that so you can clearly see true history and how it unfolded and how Hispanic people came about. If you read this book by Diego de Landa, Yucatan Before and After the Conquest, you'll see that the Spaniards came down from Spain, and many of the other groups, the Portuguese, they went to South America. Columbus did as well. They took a lot of the women as slaves. They took them as concubines. They impregnated them. The indigenous women that look like me and Hispanic people are a result of that mixture. I go into great detail about the information that's in this book in my Slave Trade Told in Reverse 4-part series that's on my page. Or you can go to my YouTube channel. It would probably be a lot easier to find that. The 4-part series on how the slave trade was told in reverse. And I hope this helps to answer some of your questions, dear.